You're fully asleep right now, not dozing, not half listening, actually completely gone for hours in total darkness with nobody standing guard. Your ancestors would find that terrifying. For most of human history, that kind of sleep, deep, undefended, all the way down, was not something a person could safely afford. And the thing that eventually made it possible wasn't fire. It wasn't a locked door. It was an animal, lying at the edge of camp, doing a job the human body was never actually built to handle alone. So here's the real question tonight. Why couldn't ancient humans sleep the way you just did, and what changed the math? Let's start with the problem itself, because it's worse than you'd think. Sleep is, biologically speaking, a terrible position to be caught in. No awareness, no defense, no ability to run. And our ancestors were entering that state every single night, in the open, surrounded by predators specifically adapted to hunt after dark, exactly when human senses are at their weakest. Here's the detail that changes everything. Humans have unremarkable night vision, average hearing, and almost no functional sense of smell compared to the animals hunting us. 8 hours a night. For hundreds of thousands of years, our entire species was betting on the dark simply staying empty until sunrise. It rarely did. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. It wasn't just the big, obvious predators, the cats and hyenas everyone pictures in a documentary. It was every rustle that might be one. Every shift in wind carrying a smell nobody could quite place. Every night stretching out with absolutely no way to confirm until morning whether the danger had actually been real or imagined. You couldn't check your phone. You couldn't turn on a light. You just had to lie there and wait to find out, over and over, for your entire life. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer communities, groups like the Hadza of Tanzania, who still live something close to how humans lived for most of our existence, have found something that quietly rewrites the whole story. Anthropologist David Sampson, tracking Hadza sleep patterns with movement-sensing devices, found that the entire group was almost never fully unconscious at the same time. Across weeks of data, moments where everyone was asleep simultaneously added up to almost nothing. That is not a coincidence. It has a name. Picture it for a second, almost like an accidental relay race nobody agreed to run. One person drops off to sleep as another is just stirring awake 3/10 over, with no meeting ever held to divide up the hours. It shouldn't work. It works anyway because biology had already stacked the deck. Researchers call it the sentinel hypothesis, and here's why it matters. People do not all run on the same internal clock. Some fall asleep early and wake early. Others stay up late and rise late. In your world, that's just an inconvenience solved with coffee. In an ancestral world, it may have been the entire safety system. Natural variation in chronotype meant a sleeping group would basically never lose consciousness all at once. The elder who wakes at dawn, the teenager still restless at midnight. Neither one volunteered for guard duty. Evolution just quietly assigned it to them anyway, rotating automatically generation after generation, with nobody ever designing the schedule on purpose. But here's the cost. Nobody advertises about a system like that. If part of the group has to stay semi-alert at all times, nobody in that group is getting deep, fully restorative sleep. It's rationed, fragmented on purpose. Hunter-gatherer groups today typically sleep under 7 hours a night, sometimes closer to 6, according to sleep researcher Jerome Siegel's 2015 comparative study across 3 traditional societies published in Current Biology. And yet here's the detail that should genuinely surprise you. These same groups report almost no insomnia. Some researchers working with traditional societies have noted their languages don't even contain a clean word for it. Shorter sleep, barely broken. Ours is longer, locked behind doors, guarded by quiet streets, and millions of us still can't manage it properly. That contrast points somewhere specific. The problem was never the number of hours. It was the vigilance underneath them. A system built to solve a threat that, for most of us, simply isn't there anymore. So what actually breaks that ancient standoff? Something that didn't need to take turns. Something that didn't need convincing, rotation, or fairness. Something built for exactly one job. That's what a dog at the edge of a Paleolithic camp really was. A dog's hearing spans a wider frequency range than yours, tuned to catch the kind of low rustle or distant footfall your ears would filter out completely. Its sense of smell can register an approaching animal long before any sound or shape would ever reach a sleeping human. And dogs sleep in short, frequently interrupted bouts of their own, which sounds like a disadvantage until you realize it means partial alertness is running almost constantly. In other words, dogs arrived already built for the exact role humans had been clumsily improvising through mismatched sleep schedules, except sharper, steadier, and free of resentment about pulling the late shift. We have physical proof this partnership was real, not just theory. At Bonner-Berkesel in Germany, archaeologists uncovered a dog buried alongside 2 humans roughly 14,200 years ago, one of the oldest confirmed domesticated dog burials on record. A 2018 study led by Luch Janssens examined the animal's teeth and found it had survived a serious illness as a puppy, meaning someone had cared for a sick, non-working animal for weeks, for no practical reason except that it apparently mattered to them. That's not a guard dog being tolerated. That's something closer to family. Here's where scientists genuinely disagree, and it's worth admitting rather than smoothing over. Exactly when wolves began the slow drift toward becoming dogs is still debated, with genetic estimates ranging anywhere from about 15,000 to over 30,000 years ago, depending on which fossil or which strand of ancient DNA a given study leans on. Some researchers argue wolves essentially domesticated themselves, the boldest, calmest animals lingering near human camps for scavenged scraps, generation after generation, until the nervous, aggressive ones had simply bred themselves out of the arrangement. Others argue humans played a far more active role from the very beginning, deliberately keeping and feeding pups that showed useful traits. Nobody needs to fully resolve that argument for the sleep story to hold up. Whichever version came first, the outcome was the same. A species built to notice danger in the dark ended up sleeping directly beside a species built to sense it faster, and neither of them appears to have needed a formal agreement to figure that arrangement out. Here's why this genuinely matters beyond simply feeling nice. Deep, consolidated sleep isn't a luxury. It's when your brain consolidates memory, clears out metabolic waste, and lets your immune system properly repair itself. Chronic fragmented sleep, the kind an unrelieved sentinel system produces across a lifetime, is linked to elevated stress hormones and weaker immune response. A group that could finally sleep in longer, uninterrupted stretches wasn't just more comfortable. It was healthier, sharper the next morning, better equipped to survive the day after that, compounding quietly across generations that never had to remember life any other way. Think about what that actually compounds into over enough time. Sharper hunters, steadier decision-making around danger that genuinely mattered. Children raised by parents who weren't running on a permanent, low-grade sleep debt. None of that shows up as a single dramatic event in the archaeological record. It shows up as a population that was, on average, quietly better equipped than the one before it, one uninterrupted night at a time. Archaeological sites repeatedly show dog remains positioned close to hearths and sleeping areas, not off at a working distance, the way you'd keep livestock. Paleolithic dog specialist Mieczysław Germonpré, studying early canid remains at sites like Pytmosty in the Czech Republic, has documented skull shapes already diverging from wolves more than 25,000 years ago, evidence of an animal already being shaped, deliberately or not, into something meant to stay close. You keep your best early warning system as near to your body as it will tolerate, because the closer it sleeps, the faster its alertness becomes yours. And here's the twist. The old system never actually left. It's still sitting inside you tonight, which is part of why so many modern humans struggle to sleep in ways that would genuinely puzzle a Hadza elder resting on open ground. The teenager who can't fall asleep before midnight, the light sleeper jolted by the smallest sound, the person who only sleeps soundly with someone else in the house. None of that is a malfunction. It's an ancient sentinel system, still fully staffed, with nothing left to actually watch for. Your nervous system is running maintenance checks on a building that burned down thousands of years ago and never got the memo. Most of us simply lost the animal that used to carry that job for us, except some of us didn't. If you've ever slept better with a dog somewhere nearby, if the sound of it resettling on the floor felt less like a disturbance and more like the reason you could finally let go completely, that isn't sentimentality talking. That's a 14,000-year-old arrangement, quietly still in effect, running in the background of an ordinary bedroom, doing the one job your own body was never quite built to finish alone. See you in the next one.